Hey everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to share this information with you all. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Trish Butcher, and I'm the owner of Butcher Health Law. And today we're going to be talking about estate and legacy planning specifically geared towards families with young children. We're going to talk about protecting your family at all times and keeping your loved ones out of court and conflict. Thank you so much for being here. I really do value your time. And if you're watching this live, we're in the midst of COVID-19, which is an extremely challenging time for all of us. And it really makes estate planning so much more important. It's my hope that the information that you're going to learn today will really empower you and will be educational and will help you find peace of mind. So we will actually have a bonus at the end of the webinar. It will be a complimentary virtual one-on-one meeting for you to meet with me. And there will be more information about this following the end of the webinar. So stay tuned and I promise you'll learn more. So the first thing I want to do today is I want to ask all of y'all, do you currently have an estate plan in place? And this could be any type of estate plan, a will, do you have anything in place? So let me open the chat box here and see what everyone is saying. See a nope, nothing, no, not yet, yes, but it needs to be updated. I have some documents, no. Okay, awesome, great. So if you said no, you're not alone. 69% of Americans currently do not have estate plans. So trust me, you're in good company, but hopefully maybe we can remedy this and take you out of that 69%. So my next question is why not? Do you feel like you're too busy, too young, not enough assets, you've just kind of pushed it off? What has caused you to not do any type of estate planning until now? Let's see. Too expensive, don't know where to start. Okay, didn't have any assets, just had my first child. Okay, great, awesome, thank you all. So, and then my last question is, if you do have some type of estate document in place, what are you hoping to learn today? Is it a better understanding? Is it maybe updating an outdated estate plan? Is it that, is online okay? What's brought you here today? So just got a divorce and it's outdated, need to update. Okay, yes, that's common. Online, okay, perfect. Okay, well, thank you all so much for joining me. You're in the right place. If you have someone or something you care about and want to protect, if you did a fill in the blank will, or maybe you're thinking about it, if you're nervous about the cost of estate planning, you don't know where to start, trust me, you're in the right place, and hopefully I can help shed some light. So the reality is that estate planning is not really about you or me. It's about the people that we love the most. And your estate plan it's there to protect your children and your family in case the worst happens. And your loved ones will know whether you really lived up to your promise of I took care of it at that point. So it's about making a very painful process as smooth as possible and making sure your wishes for your loved ones come into fruition. So what you will learn today is how your loved ones can cope with the unexpected from 3 different positions. So from no estate planning, basic estate planning or personalized and tailored to you estate planning, so advanced estate planning. But first, before I jump in to talking more about estate planning, I wanted to go ahead and tell you all a little more about me and why I became so passionate about this. So I was born and raised in Athens, and I am a local. Most of my family still lives here. I have one brother who lives in Denver, so I miss him a lot. But I'm very fortunate to have a lot of my family close by. I basically have lived on Baxter Street for a good bit of my life, middle school, high school, UGA, and work. So it's kind of like my epicenter in Athens. Um, I moved to Atlanta after graduating from Georgia, and I go to Emory Law School. I went to Emory Law School, sorry, and I met my husband who was finishing up at Georgia Tech. So we lived in Atlanta a few more years after graduating, but then decided to move back to Athens to raise our family. We have, in the bottom left-hand corner, we have one dog, Woody, and a cat with Boo Boo, and then we now also have our little furless baby, Max. He's 16 months old, and if you hear any screaming upstairs, it's definitely him, so sorry about that. So I graduated from UGA in 2010 with a BA in political science. I moved right into Emory Law School. I graduated in 2013. That's me and my cousin, who's also a graduate of Emory Law School. And while at Emory, I interned for the Medical Association of Georgia. And so once I graduated, I just transitioned right into being their legal counsel. And I did a lot of, I represented physicians, and I did a good bit of lobbying, legal support for them, and then I also wrote some legislation, and it was great. But my husband and I really kind of burned out on Atlanta, so we decided to move back to my hometown, Athens. And since then, while being in Athens, I've worked as of counsel for a firm in Augusta, and then I've also I owned my own gym here in Athens for a few years before making the hard decision to close because I had Max. And so Max gave me a whole new perspective on my life and really kind of made me do some introspective evaluating. So my why for why I started Butcher Health Law and got into estate planning is, of course, first and foremost, it is Max and my family. And when he was born, I started looking into getting, estate planning done for him. And I was pretty much just appalled at what I found. I mean, the number of attorneys that are, supposed to be great attorneys and are very respected in our community really don't personalize their estate plans to fit our needs. So that was kind of my first eye opener. And I knew that I wanted to protect Max, more than anything. And I knew that I would do anything to make sure that he grew up, even if he grew up without me or me and my husband, Andy, that he'd grow up with our values, and that he'd be protected and loved and know that we loved him. So that's my first why. My second why is actually my grandmother's estate plan failure. So my grandmother had a pretty complicated estate. She'd invested a good bit in real estate in her life. She was remarried, and her husband, who I called my grandfather, had 2 children from a previous marriage, and then my grandmother had my father, an only child. So I'd say that overall, my grandmother probably spent, upwards of $25,000 on her estate plan, and it still failed, and it failed miserably. My dad was in court in conflict for 4 years trying to settle all of this, and my grandfather's children sued several times, contested everything, and just really dragged it out as long as they possibly could. So it was really a disaster. And we even had questions at the end as to whether the documents had actually been changed after my grandmother was no longer able to make those decisions. So it was really a mess. And I really wondered if the attorneys that had drawn up this estate plan had actually committed malpractice. But even more recently, I went over my dad's will with him, and I mean, it just I've realized that it's not malpractice. These attorneys are just doing what all of attorneys have always done. And my dad went to a law firm here in Athens. It's a very large, very respected, renowned law firm here in Athens, and paid good money to have a will drawn up, and this will does nothing. It literally doesn't do anything for him. It doesn't keep him out of the probate process. It does everything exactly as the law would have done it without any type of document. My fourth why is because while working with the other law firm that I worked with, you don't get to develop a really good relationship with your clients because of hourly billing and whatnot. They're almost afraid to talk to you and to reach out to you. They don't want to be billed for you telling them your life story. And I'm kind of talkative, so I don't want them to be wondering while I am, trying to create a rapport and a relationship with them as to whether they're going to be billed for the fact that I talk a lot. So I really wanted to create a lifestyle and a practice where I could become an advocate for my clients and a trusted advisor and someone that they weren't afraid to reach out to or talk to. And so that's really, really important to me. And that is why I feel like I've ended up where I've ended up. So what you will, we're gonna shift into the educational portion of the presentation now, and I want you to think about who needs your protection. Your family, your kids, any dependents, any pets, maybe even your extended family, your parents. Who would be harmed if something was to happen to you tomorrow? And so today we're going to learn about estate planning with a hypothetical family. It's the Smith family. And I'm going to go ahead and warn you that the Smith family is about to go through some really rough times. Now, obviously, these are somewhat hard topics to talk about and think about, but that's why we do this. It's to prepare for the worst and always hope for the best. So especially in times like these with COVID-19, I feel like we've had to actually look at mortality a little bit more than we have in the past. And it's certainly never an easy topic to talk about or think about, but it is really important to prepare for. And in estate planning, good estate planning, just make sure that at least in one way, in these crazy times, you have some peace of mind. So let's look at the Smith family. So the Smith family is John and Samantha, and their two children, John Jr., who's 5, and Allison, who's 2. And they're just your average Georgia family. They have some savings, retirement accounts, savings accounts, and they've been married for about 7 years, and they have their 2 darling children together. They are a younger couple, so they're still in the wealth accumulation phase. They don't have millions of dollars or anything. And they make sure that their children are protected in every way that they can. Of course, without being a helicopter parent. So they've invested in the best baby monitors and car seats and crib mattresses, and they've followed all the guidelines, barring some minor injuries, which we all know is inevitable with children. They've done a really great job at protecting them and keeping them safe and giving them a loving and nurturing home. So typically, Samantha works from home, but today she has a meeting at work, and John is actually flying to France for his job. So they call their longtime babysitter, Felicity, who the kids just both adore. So to them, this is fun time. She's been their babysitter since day one, so the kids are super excited about babysitter fun time. But unfortunately, this is where our story is going to start to get sad. So Samantha's on her way to work when she gets a notification that her meeting has been postponed, so she decides to hit the gym. She tries to call Felicity, but Felicity doesn't typically check her phone when she's with the kids, so Samantha doesn't really worry about it. She locks her bag in the locker room and gets on the treadmill. But while on the treadmill, she all of a sudden gets a splitting headache and has an aneurysm. You know, this is a silent killer that has probably been ticking away like a time bomb her entire life. and she just never knew about it. Most people don't. The EMT and the police come, but unfortunately, Samantha has passed away. And because her purse was locked in a locker room, they have no immediate way of knowing who to contact. Felicity, meanwhile, is getting extremely worried and frantic as Samantha was supposed to be home and is not answering her phone. So, what happens now? Scenario one is with no estate planning. After several hours, Felicity finally calls the police who come to the house. And because Felicity has no authority to keep the children, nor is she related, the police are required to take the children into protective services until a family member is located. So the children are scared and confused, and they're placed with a foster family with people they do not know. And once contacted, the dad, John, scrambles to get on a flight home, runs into several delays, as often happens with trying to reschedule a flight last minute, and finally arrives home 2 days later to two very traumatized and scared children. Now, scenario two is what if they had basic estate planning, which might be just a will. So unfortunately, no one even knows where the will is, because as people often do, they threw it into a drawer somewhere and left it. And the scenario is honestly no different than no estate planning. The police come with protective services, they take the children away. Felicity has no rights to keep them, and there's no family member nearby that can come. So again, John arrives home to two very traumatized and scared children. Scenario three is that they actually have a personalized estate plan. So with everything else in life, like everything else in their life, the Smiths wanted to make sure that their children are protected no matter what. So they met with an attorney and had advanced and personalized estate plan drawn up for them. This included a kids protection plan, which prepared them for the worst. Felicity had instructions to call the temporary guardian instead of the police, and the guardian was able to immediately come over as he lived about 5 minutes away. And then the police were notified. So the guardian was able to stay with the kids, and they continued to go about pretty carefree, as kids would do until their father got home. So when the dad got home, they were able to really mourn their mother together, and they grieved and slowly started to mend and rebuild their lives. And because they had done advanced estate planning, Samantha had left them letters and videos for the milestones in their lives. And they grew up with an understanding of who their mother was and that she loved them very much. So this is what advanced estate planning can do. It protects your kids so much better than the basic or the no estate planning had. Unfortunately, the sadness is not over for the Smith family yet. So now, after Samantha passed away, John decided to make sure that everything was in order. He did his estate planning and took out a life insurance policy to make sure that the kids would be provided for. A few months later, he was distracted coming home from work and he ran a red light. So he was on life support for a while, but because he had a healthcare directive, his brother was able to follow his instructions and tell the physicians to let him go. So a healthcare directive made sure that John's brother knew exactly what his brother wanted. He wasn't having to make this decision on his own, and he was able to follow his wishes and desires. And so unfortunately, John was taken off of life support. So the children move in with their guardians and begin to heal yet again. But what about the life insurance money and their inheritance? John had made sure that they were going to be provided for. So what happens to this? So scenario one is that, like many people do, John made his kids the beneficiaries of his life insurance policy. But because they are still minors, the guardian has to go to court to have a financial custodian appointed for the money. And the guardians will not be automatically appointed. The judge actually gets to choose who is the custodian for the kids. And oftentimes a professional with no personal ties to the family and who makes a living doing this can be appointed. Or maybe the brother comes back in because he's seen some dollar signs. And so now he wants to come and be appointed custodian for these children. The point is that the judge gets to make this decision because the life insurance was left to minors because John just didn't know any better. Regardless of who he chooses as financial guardian for the children, they will get the remainder of the money, whatever is left after raising them, when Allison turns 18 years old. So when Allison is 18 and John is 20 or 21, they will get this bulk, sum of money with no guidance and no stipulations. So what do young, teenagers or young adults do? They go out, they buy a car, and they start to spend frivolously, and they blow through all their money. And they end up broke. So scenario 2 is that John actually had an attorney create a customized estate plan to protect his children and guide them to make wise choices with money. The guardians were able to focus on raising John and Allison with the values that they knew John and Samantha would have wanted. And life insurance money supported the children through college and actually even growing their own families. Because of their parents' advanced planning, the children are able to use their money to invest in their futures instead of just blow it on frivolous things right off the bat. So those are a few examples of what can happen with no estate planning. Basic estate planning, like a simple will, or advanced and personalized estate planning. So there's so much more out there that could be included in this, but obviously we're trying to keep this brief. But these are just some of the big things that I kind of wanted to point out. So lesson 1 that I hope you kind of got from this is that the guardianship is not just about providing long-term protection. It's also about immediate circumstances. At Butcher Health Law, we offer a kids protection plan that is a comprehensive protection for your children no matter what. And it's built into all of our estate plans for young families. Our main goal is to make sure that your greatest asset, your children, are always protected no matter what. So the second lesson is that whatever you decide, whatever decision you don't make, or any uninformed decisions like leaving a life insurance policy to a minor child, which a lot of people do, the judge gets to make. And this is not only very hard on your loved ones, it can also be very costly and take a really long time. So just like the guardians had to go to court to try and get appointed financial custodians, but the judge gets to make that decision. And it's hard on everybody, and it makes a already very traumatic and sad process that much harder. The only person who should be making decisions for you and your family is you. So the third lesson is one that I didn't get to discuss a lot in this particular scenario, but is that a review of all of your assets needs to be a part of your estate planning. And I see it all the time and way too often. Families have multiple retirement accounts and bank accounts and savings accounts, and maybe they inherited this and a couple different properties. Who knows? Who knows? It might not even be that many assets, but if they're scattered like they often are, people may not know how to access them or even that they exist. So in Georgia alone, there's over $1 billion in the Georgia Unclaimed Properties Department. And to me, that is so insane. One of the first things that we want to help you do, no matter if you hire us to actually do your estate planning or not, is to help you get organized and avoid this. It is easy to avoid, but so many families fall into this trap of not having a record of what assets they actually have. So this to us is just one of the most important parts of estate planning. So a big myth that we hear a lot is that wills will protect your family from probate in the probate process. So this is actually incorrect. Even if you have a will, your estate does still have to go through probate. It's exactly the same probate process that you would go through even if you didn't have a will, except that the judge does, follow the will typically for what your instructions are. but the process still costs your family money, and it can still take up to 6 to 12 months on average in Georgia. But if someone challenges your will, this will take even longer. So even like my grandparents' estate, um, it was complicated. So maybe it would have taken, a year and a half. Instead, it took 4 years to finally complete because of how many challenges there were. So it's really important to remember that wills do not protect you, your family from the probate process. And also, oftentimes, your family may not even know where your will is. Um, I think I see that all the time. You get your 100-page document that you often don't even know what it says, and you throw it in a drawer somewhere, and then no one even knows it exists or where it is. So we ensure at Butcher Health Law that your documents can always be found. We ensure that people that need to have copies, and that we also send personalized letters to everyone named in your estate plan, just to make sure that they know exactly what's going on. So this is really important for your family. So how are we different than a traditional law firm? So I think one of the biggest things, one of the biggest takeaways that people often have with attorneys is the huge hourly fees and just not really even knowing how much something's going to cost. You get surprise billed, you don't want to talk to them, you're afraid that one phone call or a question is going to cost you $300. Like, you just never know. And this is a huge detriment, especially with something as personal as estate planning. You're also going to see that it's just like a one-off transaction for a lot of attorneys. They're never going to follow up with you. You're probably never going to talk to them again. And then also that they just use kind of one-size-fits-all documents, basically a fill-in-the-blank blank will that's going to be no different than the wills that you're going to find online. So at Butcher Health Law, we've really tried to make this experience so much different. We don't do any hourly billing. We're all flat fee based, and it's agreed to in advance. No surprises whatsoever. We make sure we work with our clients to plan ahead to avoid any potential problems, and all of our plans are relationship based. And then finally, our plans are personalized to fit our clients' needs, period. There are no one-size-fits-all documents at Butcher Health Law, and this is so important. So my promise to you is that we will leave no stone unturned, and that you will have peace of mind at the end of this process, that you will not be leaving with a form document that someone filled in the blanks for you. And so our process is a 3-step process. It includes a family wealth planning session, a signing ceremony, and a final meeting, all of which take about 8 weeks to finish. Our average fees range between $2,000 and $5,000, and these fees are totally depend upon what is right for you and your family. You get to choose these fees based on what you're looking for and what your needs are, with our guidance if you choose to move forward with us for your estate planning. All of our estate plans, like I mentioned, include a kids protection plan if you have minor children. And our estate plans also include a complimentary every 3 years, we check in to make sure that your estate plan doesn't need any amendments or changes. And we think that this is really the minimum amount of time that you need to go before checking and reevaluating and revisiting your estate plan, because the law can change, your life can change. Maybe you had another kid, maybe you got a divorce, maybe someone passed away and you got an inheritance. So really every 3 years is what we think is just the absolute minimum for revisiting your estate plan. And so we actually provide that complimentary to everybody who does an estate plan with us, and that is included in our fees. So the biggest risk to your family is procrastination. So in order to help you make this decision to protect your family and your loved ones, we are offering a complimentary family wealth planning session to everyone who attended this webinar. This is usually a $750 cost, but because you attended this webinar and are obviously interested in protecting your loved ones, we are waiving this fee as long as you secure it with a credit card and complete your homework. And we would send you your homework as soon as you schedule the meeting. This meeting is zero obligation. You have no obligation to hire us following the meeting, and it's really meant to just help you get your assets organized and to educate you on what would happen to your assets and your family right now without any planning in place. This meeting is purely educational. It's purely, it's just to help you get better organized and to really understand where your family is right now. So again, this is normally a $750 cost. The meeting usually runs between about an hour to 2 hours. We're doing them all virtually right now. We're not doing any in person. Hopefully we'll be able to get back to that sometime, you know, if this COVID ever ends. So, but yeah, so if you would like to have this family wealth planning session with us, it's going to be free of charge. We're waiving the $750 cost for those who attended this webinar. And I feel like one of those infomercials. And that's not all. If you do decide that planning with us is right for your family, we will go one step further and we're going to actually discount you $250 on your plan if you book your family wealth planning session within the next week. We are so invested in helping families get their planning in place right now, and there's never been a more time when this is so important. So please, 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 if not with us, plan something. So you can schedule your family wealth planning session online. We have our scheduler at www.butcherhealthlaw.com/FWP-schedule. And you will be receiving an email after this webinar with more information about that. So don't worry about writing it down or anything. You'll have it in an email. And like I said, it will take an hour to 2 hours. If you have a spouse, your spouse will need to be there as well. But because it's all virtual right now and Zoom meetings, y'all can be in 2 different places and we can all meet at the same time. So that is one of the nice things about virtual. If you have any other questions or concerns or would just like to talk to me first, please, please, please don't hesitate to email me at trish@butcherhealthlaw.com. I am so happy to talk to anybody, answer any questions that you might have, any concerns. I'm here, I'm happy to help. I would love to be not only just your attorney, but also your trusted advisor. So this is really important to me, and I think it's just so important for everybody. So please do not hesitate if you have any questions. You can also schedule a free consultation online as well. So at this point, thank you all so much for hanging in there with me. I am going to open the floor to any questions. So let me just open up the chat and see. So please, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them now. If not, or if you think of something later, again, feel free to email me or schedule a consultation call. So let's see. Okay, first question. Can we include assets that are in other countries in this estate planning, or do they have to have estate planning in that country as well? No, so there are ways to include assets from other countries. So we would be able to include that in your estate planning here. There are ways to do that. So you would not most likely have to have estate planning in 2 countries. So that's good. How long does the process usually take? Okay, so the process usually takes about 8 weeks, all said and done. And the meetings on average, again, the family wealth planning session is usually about 1 to 2 hours, and then the following 2 meetings are about 30 minutes to an hour. So we'll, get you going as soon as we can. Let's see. So what are all assets should you get together before your estate planning? Okay, so we actually send a document to anybody who signs up for a family planning session, and it's basically like a questionnaire, and it helps you get all your assets together. So it's gonna direct you as to what assets you need to include, whether it be retirement accounts, IRAs, life insurance policies, properties, everything like that. So we actually send you homework as soon as you sign up for the family wealth planning session that will guide you on getting all of that information together and help you get very financially organized. How much does estate planning cost? So on average, our estate planning is going to range between 2 to 5,000. Again, this totally depends upon what is right for your family. You get to choose your fee with some guidance from us if you choose to move forward with us. These, our estate planning documents are very, very comprehensive. So they're going to include the will. If you choose to go beyond a will, they're going to include any trust documents. And basically, a trust is what we use to keep you out of the probate process. It keeps your family out of that conflict and the costly process of probate. And I'm happy to explain more about trust and everything in the family wealth planning session, or if you email me. But so we do trust a lot for our families, and not just super wealthy families. Like, yeah, I know that everyone, oh, the trust fund kid. No, these are different types of trusts, and they can benefit anybody, not just the super wealthy. They also include healthcare directives. They include power of attorneys, and they also include the kids protection plan for families with minor children, which encompasses everything you would need to ensure that your children are kept safe in case of an emergency. And then the other question is about what documents are included. So I think I just said that. So will, trust documents, power of attorney, healthcare directives, and kids protection plan. So yeah, I think that is it. I don't see any more questions right now. Awesome. Thank you all so much for joining, and I really appreciate you taking time. I know that your Mondays are hard, so thank you so much for joining us and taking the time to be with us and to learn. And please, again, feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Email me, schedule a family wealth planning session. Again, it's no obligation, it's purely educational, and we are just happy to help you get that peace of mind that comes when you know that your loved ones are protected. So we hope everyone has a fantastic Monday and a great week, and hopefully I will talk to y'all soon. Thanks so much.